Welcome back to another edition of Movement is a Lifestyle. I'm your host, Ben Reuter. Our goal is to interview people across the Pittsburgh area with an emphasis on people in the South Hills area to promote the ethos that movement is a lifestyle. And we interview people everywhere from physical therapists to educators. And today we have an educator with us. We have an individual that I work with at my real job at PennWest University, California campus. We're here with Justin Barroner. Justin wears many hats. His main reason I wanted to have him on today is he is the chair of the Department of Exercise and Sports Science, which encompasses 3 different campuses at Penn Western University, the California campus, where he and I were originally part of a department at California University in Pennsylvania. And then for those of you who don't know, California University, Edinburgh University, and Clarion University combined or consolidated to Penn West or Pennsylvania Western University. And I thought it would be interesting to have Justin come on and we could talk a little bit about the programs and what you can do in exercise science and sports as far as an academic degree to be involved with movement. So Justin, thanks for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come down to Peters High School and talk about exercise in the Department of California.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ben, for having me. I'm really looking forward to talking a little about the programs, everything from the undergrad to the doctoral level and everything in between, and how dynamic and robust we are as far as a curriculum. So I'm really excited.
And I think one of the most interesting things about interviewing people is everybody has a story or a way that they got there. You know, I often say when people say, do you think you would be south of Pittsburgh? I originally thought I'd be somewhere in California or Colorado up in the mountains working at a small college, which didn't work out or didn't happen for a variety of reasons. How did you end up working for Penn West, and what was your original plan when you went to school? So what was your educational path to get where you are today?
Absolutely, that's a great question, and it does take many turns and 90-degree bends and all kind of crazy stuff. But to go back, I grew up from Hollidaysburg, which is real close for a lot of people that know kind of central part of the state near Altoona. And I fell in love with the game of golf. So you take a look at me, I always kind of have that look of a golf professional, and to that point, I am actually a Class A PGA golf professional. So everything that's steered my path in life has been geared around the game of golf, and what I pursued both in college and what brought me to Penn West to this day. So just to give you a little bit of background information, I went to Penn State University, majored in professional golf management. My concentration was very specific to like the Rex and Park end of things, but obviously focusing on golf. So I loved golf, and it brought me to all parts of this country. I worked everywhere from the DC area and Rockville, Maryland, Philadelphia, Palm Beach, Florida, and you name it in between, especially mainly on the East Coast as far as golf was concerned. And I was a PGA golf professional helping to run and manage country clubs, resorts, those types of things. So when I go back, it's so funny you talk about when I transitioned to Penn West. If you go back about 6 months prior to Penn West, I was living on the beach in Palm Beach, Florida. Literally, the place I was living at was right on the beach. I could walk every morning, jog in the afternoons, play golf, because the golf course, which was the Breakers Resort in Palm Beach, Florida, was located right on the sand. And that's where I lived 6 months prior to coming to Penn West. So it's always funny when I think back, I'm like, boy, I lived on the beach, on the island of Palm Beach, with a golf course in my backyard and a beach in the front yard. What mistakes did I make? No, I'm joking. In complete seriousness, really what ended up steering me is I was a golf professional. I was running country clubs, but I always had a deep passion for education. I wanted to have the opportunity to advance myself both professionally, but give back to the game of golf in a way that was a lot bigger than what I could do at an individual resort or country club or whatever that may be. So it made me kind of self-reflect a little bit. And one thing that I always said that I loved about the golf industry is I loved the education I received when I went through the Penn State program. And I was like, you know what? I can do this. This is something very unique. So I started looking at programs across the country where I could potentially go on and become a faculty member and actually work within a program designed to train PGA golf professionals. There's not a lot of them in the country, to be honest with you. And in fact, right now we only have about 21 from coast to coast. At that time, there was only 4. So not a lot of options existed. But long story short, this little university, California University of Pennsylvania, the president at the time, his father was actually a golf course superintendent, and the chair of our department, the department that I'm now in charge of, exercise and sports science, his son went to Coastal Carolina for the same program. So long story short, the president and the chair of the department at that time, they kind of were at some football game or whatever it may have been, and they said, you know what, we can do this golf management thing. They've seen what had happened at different schools across the country, and long story short, they said, you know what, we're going to do it here at California University of Pennsylvania. They decided to do a faculty search. I applied. Let's just say at 24 years of age when I interviewed, was not really quite the image that they were looking for, but I think I had all the skill sets. I had worked at a lot of different resorts and private private country clubs and that type of thing, as well as going through an academic program that aligned with what Cal U at the time was trying to build. With that said, I applied, I got the opportunity, and I was brought in about a year prior to the start of the professional golf management program. And my job was to build it from the ground up. And basically I took all the things that I had loved through my education at Penn State and brought a lot of it to California University of Pennsiliania. And I don't know if we want to go through the entire spiel of how it ended up translating into what I'm doing today as the chair of the department.
I think that transitions into a good question. You mentioned at the beginning you are a PGA Class A professional, and I suspect there are many listeners who are golfers, and when they think golf professional, they think Tiger Woods or, you know, some of the other ones that you see are women on the LPGA tour. What exactly, that's clearly not you, maybe you have the skills, maybe you don't, but you teach other people to play golf, and you mentioned the management of golf courses. What is the difference, or what is that?
Absolutely, I always say the difference, there's a golf professional and a professional golfer. So Tiger Woods, for example, professional golfer, he makes a living playing the game of golf. I'm a golf professional. We help support the industry of the golf profession. So I always say, think of some of the private clubs that you have in the area, Valley Brook Country Club or St. Clair Country Club, Linden Woods, South Point, those types of properties that are close by here to the Peters Township High School area. There is somebody that kind of runs the day-to-day operation. Everything from merchandising the golf shop, teaching golf lessons, running golf tournaments, all those different avenues that really help support the industry and the game of golf. So that's really what my background is in. So when I came to the university, my job was to train students how to actually run country clubs, run resorts, teach the game of golf. So there's a lot of different elements that come into play there. But the one I keep bringing up here is teach the game of golf, understanding how the body moves through a golf swing. How do we make sure it's an efficient movement? How do we make sure that, that we do it in such a way that prevents injury? Those are all critical elements of the golf management program. So that's kind of literally the segue that brought me into the department that I'm in right now. But really, I always say golf professional, professional golfer. I would love to be a professional golfer. One, that would be a nice one that pays a little bit better. But golf professional is really kind of where my career is focused. And to this day, I'm still in charge of at PennWest, still in charge of the professional golf management program. I have some great faculty members that support me in golf management. And we have truly one of the premier programs in the country when it comes to training golf professionals. So that kind of gives you a little bit of background of the difference between a golf professional, professional golfer, but yeah, I'm the golf professional side of things.
That's a great way to explain it. I know some people enter the academic realm and they know they want to teach. They know that maybe maybe administration is not for them. I have a good friend who retired after 25 plus years of teaching at a major institution in the Southeast, and they repeatedly tried to get him to be department chair, and he, very successful textbook author, multiple publications. It's like, I don't want to do that. I have no interest in that. Mm-hmm. You're currently teaching classes, but you also are the chairman of the department. What was the transition from, as you described, a wet behind the ears 24-year-old starting a new job in academia to now, I think I've known you almost 20 years, maybe 18 or 19 years. Now you are teaching and doing administration at the department level. What was the transition, or what was the decision to say, I want to do something other than the teaching of future golf professionals?
That's a great question. And it's funny, it's one I don't always reflect on too much because in my head I'm not really sure how that transition took place. But as far as Cal U was concerned, I spent 7 years in the classroom full-time. Where I managed every element of the golf management program, and I was in charge of everything from our internship program, which is quite robust, to teaching pretty much every class within that curriculum. And actually a good friend, a colleague of mine, you talk about mentor, one of my colleagues, Dr. Jeff Hatton, was the chair of our department at the time, and he actually just asked me if I wanted to help him out a little bit as far as building schedules for the department. And I'm like, oh, this sounds great, an interesting idea, something new. It was kind of that shiny thing that caught my attention for a period of time. So I was like, you know what, I'll give this a shot. So we sat down and we had to look at all the different programs that we have in our department, which a lot of people may not realize, but we have everywhere from undergrad the whole way up to doctoral level. And our job was to figure out what all the classes need to be offered every semester, and then how do you take the faculty, their expertise, build a schedule around something that fits and aligns with their lifestyle, as well as their teaching, their research interests, and their presentations and things that they need to do. There's all these different elements that come into building that schedule. So long story short, it was like a puzzle to me. So I sat down, and I spent from 2013 to 2019, 6 years, working with Jeff Hatton, my mentor, on building schedules. And then as we started to build schedules, I had to interact with faculty more. I had to help with different student issues that they may have encountered in their classes or whatever it may be. And it just kind of grew from there. I talk about like planting a seed on one little element, and then it obviously growing to the point that now spanning over 3 campuses between the California campus, Edinburgh, and Clarion. A very robust department with over 25 faculty members and nearly 800 students in total. So it's changed a lot since those days of building a schedule in 2013.
And I think what's interesting for people who are not involved in academia, they may know certain schools, and you described we're now PennWest. I gave a presentation this past summer, literally 3 days after California University of Pennsylvania ceased to exist, and it was PennWest, and I had added that into my bio. And I remember the individual who works at Shippensburg was reading my bio when he stops mid-introduction of introducing me to the speakers and says, what the heck is PennWest? So you are the face or the chair of the PennWest of our department, 3 different campuses, and in addition, you could almost say a 4th campus because we have online programs, undergraduate programs, graduate or master's programs, and a doctoral program. Absolutely. Thinking back to when you were at Penn State, when you probably were just focused, these are my classes, and I think as big as we are at PennWest, Penn State's departments are even larger.
Absolutely. The moving parts are incredible. And as you just mentioned, obviously at 3 different levels. And not only are they 3 different levels, undergrad, master's degree level, and doctoral level, but the biggest secret is how do we make sure they all dovetail nicely together? Because we'll have a lot of students that will start with us at the undergrad level, and then they'll obviously want to continue their education, go on to the master's degree level, and then we have a few that will say, you know what, I want to be a subject matter expert, I'd love to teach this full time, and they end up selecting a doctoral program to kind of pursue those teaching interests and subject matter expert type of scenario. So it's really interesting to see how they have to dovetail. And I will say it's expanded a lot now as far as the integration is concerned. So like I'll use an example at California or the online campus, we had 100% online, we still do, exercise science program and wellness and human performance. And that's what we've had my entire time at Cal U and obviously the first part of PennWest. Well, now that we've integrated and we have Clarion and Edinburgh that have kind of come together with the California campus, our students have so many new options and variety of curriculum. So like, for example, we talked about the online version. The online in exercise science, that was really geared towards that application-based student. For a lot of times those students were non-traditional. They may have been working as fitness trainers or something along that line, and they want to just advance and get their bachelor's degree. Well, now that we've combined with both Clarion and Edinburgh, and I'll use Edinburgh as an example. Edinburgh, for example, is a clinical-based exercise science program. So all of a sudden, it's that student that maybe works more in the medical realm, and want to work alongside with like PTs and OTs and that type of thing. Whereas if we look at Clarion, for example, there's a nutrition and fitness. A really strong push towards nutrition is a key element of that program. And for example, one of our faculty members is also the certified head nutritionist for the Pittsburgh Steelers that pretty much runs things out of the Clarion campus. So now where students obviously had an exercise science program at California, when you look at that integrated university, students can really dive deep into a lot of different areas, and it works out fantastic for the student. And that's once again building these schedules and figuring out how does a student from California, if they want to learn more about nutrition or take 2 or 3 or 4 different levels of nutrition, they can do that through the Clarion campus. So it really produced a lot of opportunities for students.
And I know one of the things that's very difficult if you're a parent or you're a high school student and you're looking at different schools, one of the bad things is our profession or our field, exercise science or exercise science and sports science, every campus has a different name. So ours is a different name from 2 or 3 schools up in Pittsburgh to out west. For somebody who's setting out to look for it, what do I look for in a program? How do I find out more information? Take, for example, just the PennWest campus. You mentioned we have not only the exercise science undergrad, potentially 3 different concentrations or areas depending where it is. There's sport management undergrad. Just from the undergraduate level, somebody says, you know, I'm a senior or I'm a junior, I might want to stay relatively close to home, or maybe I want to take advantage of online opportunities and travel and take classes. How do they begin to find out information? Because if you're not familiar with it as you are, and I am to a lesser extent, you're going to look at it and go, well, he just described too much information.
It's a great, if I had to kind of lay out what is the most efficient way, is probably the words I want to use, to be able to analyze a program and determine if it's the right fit for you, I would spend time looking at the faculty. At the end of the day, you know, I'll use, for example, one of the classes in our department, Intro to Fitness. And I don't care what exercise science program you go to across the country, there's probably an Intro to Fitness. The question is, what does that faculty member, what does their resume look like, or their CV? What do they bring to the classroom? That's really what kind of takes that coursework and helps it to just kind of explode and connect with that student. So for example, when I think of our faculty, we have faculty, for example, that work with the Kansas City Chiefs. For example, they work on the athletic training end and they work with the team throughout the year. We have faculty that work with the U.S. Olympic Committee. We have, even in myself, I actually work with the Augusta National Golf Club and help run the Masters Tournament every year. So look at the faculty, see what their expertise are. What have they done outside the classroom? Yes, we've all write papers and present and those type of things, but what are those other elements that make you truly unique? And what are those real-world examples that the faculty members can bring to the classroom? So I would look at the faculty, read deeply into those resumes of those faculty. So, because once again, that's what your student, your son or daughter, for example, is going to look at. And all of a sudden, you know what, if they love, and I'll use golf as an example, it's the easiest one for me, and they know they love golf, they should read my bio. They should read J.R. Pawn's bio, one of our other faculty members, Derek DeGitis, another faculty member in the golf management program. See what they've done. See that Derek has worked at Oakmont Country Club, for example. And once again, if you dream of working and learning the field of golf management at Oakmont Country Club, Derek DeGitis is a great resource for you. And once again, every school across the country is going to have kind of those faculty bios, where you can kind of say, what is your son or daughter interested in? And then what faculty kind of align at this point with some of those interests? The next step after looking at the faculty is I do a campus visit. Walk down the main, student pathway through campus and see how it feels. If you walk down through that and you're like, you know what, this place just feels too big, too small, too this, too that, I don't know what that is, it may not be right for you. But I remember, for example, when I went to Penn State, I remember when I was there, I was like, this place just feels right. And that's what I always want. Anytime we have students that take a visit to our campus, and I go through my entire spiel, I talk about the program, dive into the curriculum, at the end I'll ask the student, I'll just like, you know what, I don't want an answer right now, but you and your parents need to go home and you need to think about one thing. How did that feel today? Did you feel like, wow, they energized me? Or did I overwhelm you and you're more nervous than the time you step foot on campus? That's also a really good kind of compass as far as what program and what school is right for you. So dive into the faculty, see what their expertises are, go on those campus visits and see what those campuses feel like.
And we'd be remiss if we're talking about the undergraduate programs if we didn't mention sport management. Can you talk just for a few minutes about sport management before we start talking about the graduate programs?
Absolutely. So really we have 2 main Bachelor of Science programs in our department. One is exercise science. It actually has 4 different concentrations, one at each one of the campuses, and then one online. And then our other BS degree program is in sport management. And sport management basically has the 2 wings to it. We talked about golf management already. It is a concentration under sport management. The other one is we call it our generalist track, or the idea that you can kind of do anything in the sport management realm. So maybe, for example, you're interested in being an athletic director. Maybe you want to run an amateur professional team. Maybe you want to work for the U.S. Olympic Committee. Those are all things that really align well with the sport management program. And it really dives into everything you could think of when it comes to sport management, from the marketing to the legal, to understand a little bit how you, on the sports psychology end, how you work with the individual athlete. And we've also, through the integration, integrated 1 or 2 exercise science courses in there so you can also focus on the athlete from a physical fitness standpoint. You know, what do we have to do to create efficient movement, reduce injury, and optimize recovery? So those are all elements that we throw into our sport management program as well. So if they want to be a coach, they've got an option for that. If they want to be an athletic director, there's an option for that. If they want to run an association or those types of things, the general sport management track concentration is the general sport management program. The BS program is the perfect avenue or platform for that level of interest.
And I know there are some people who go into their undergrad and they just assume they're going to go on and get a master's degree. There's other people who are working and potentially it's like, okay, I can move up to another position, or there's a different job where I need to have a degree. Talk a little bit about the master's programs that we have both in exercise science and also in sport management.
And it's funny, to segue into the master's degree program, there's one thing that exists at all of our undergrad, which I think can help to answer some of these questions as far as grad school and beyond, and it's the internship component. Every one of our programs at the undergrad level has an embedded internship program. Some are quite robust. Some of them, for example, have 5 required internship, being golf management. The rest of them all have both field experience, practicum, and internship. Why is that critical? You've got to take what you've learned in the classroom, apply it in the field to start getting an idea if maybe you can already pursue your career path and your dream with the education that you've obtained to this point. Or maybe the master's degree is required, or is something that segues nicely to help you, advance and grow in your field. So I think the internship may be the first component of that. That's where you really kind of dive in, get your hands dirty, and see what it's like to be a sport management practitioner, a golf professional, an exercise science fitness professional, or one of the different entities that falls under exercise science. Start with the internship.
And I think what's great about that, I did an internship where I went to Gettysburg College, and I did an internship at a Division I strength and conditioning facility. And I knew within 3 days I did not want to be a strength coach. But it was still a great internship. It was a great experience. And people would say, well, you just wasted 12 weeks. It's like, no, I didn't waste 12 weeks. I got valuable experience. I made contacts. And it was something that better to spend 12 weeks, get some class credit for it, as opposed to having a job and realize, oh God, I don't want to do this.
And think about if you were to segue directly into the master's degree level, you would have spent another year or plus of time and dollars, and obviously pursued something that was just not quite right for you. But going back to your point about the master's degree programs, the same 2 umbrellas that we have at the undergrad program, exercise science and sport management, we also have that at the master's degree level as well. So a master's in exercise science and health promotion, as well as a master's of science in sport management. So we have both of those umbrellas, and they also come packed with a number of concentrations that allow the student to really kind of tailor in their career, their interests, their passions towards a very direct career path and become a leader in whatever field that they're looking in. So in particular with that, 10 concentrations, for example, in exercise science, 3 concentrations in sport management at the master's level. A lot of variety there allows a student to really specialize.
And then I think 2 other points. I won't ask you to say how you can double concentrate, because there are numerous iterations. I think 49 we said at the last department meeting. There is a variety for your interest. And the other thing to emphasize is they're all online, so you can be a working professional.
Absolutely, yes. At all of our grad level, from master's degree as well as even up to doctorate level, all 100% online programs. And you're exactly right. There's a lot of ways that you can even tweak the model that we've established through what we call dual concentrations. So maybe, for example, you want to dive into applied sports science, but also rehab science at the same time. I'll use that just as 2 examples. Or nutrition and sports psychology. Maybe advanced golf performance and performance enhancement and injury prevention. We have tons of these different things that can kind of go together. Each one of those concentrations is only 9 credits. So the core curriculum really doesn't change much. You're looking at actually 30 credits within the core at the master's degree level, and then that additional 9 credits is where you can really kind of specialize in. But we'll have a lot of students that will go to 48 credits instead of 39. They'll do what we call the dual concentrations, and they can really figure out what exactly maybe their current job is, or what job that they're trying to pursue, and figure out which dual concentrations would dovetail nicely to get them where they're trying to get to.
And the other aspect is they can do that either full-time or part-time if maybe their job, their family life, and other responsibilities prevent them from saying, okay, I'm doing this 100% with nothing else going on.
Absolutely. So part-time, full-time, as well as if you do the full-time option, all the programs are designed to be done in 1 year. So it doesn't really matter when you start. And actually one of the things as far as integration, we now allow 6 starts, especially in our exercise science program, 6 starts throughout the year. So if somebody is sitting back and saying, you know what, I really like rehab science, or I love performance enhancement and working with athletes and driving their optimal performance, well, you used to have to wait. You used to have to, okay, we have a start in the summer, we have a start in the winter. Well, now basically every 7 to 8 weeks we're starting a new cohort of students, and as a result, you can really start whenever you're ready. We're sitting there ready to help you and lead you down the path.
For some people, they decide a bachelor's degree isn't enough, they get a master's. For some people, they get a master's degree, that's not enough. Maybe they get a second master's or an MBA like you've done. Some people say, I want to get a doctorate degree, and we have a doctoral program in the department also. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's a Doctor of Health Science and Exercise Leadership. Once again, takes all those key components we've talked about at both the undergrad and grad level and just energizes them, a deep dive into the research and make sure that you really know how to connect with people. So there's a lot of time spent in the doctoral level about just how people learn, how people digest information, how you can truly become an expert in the field and somebody who is truly in a leadership style position. Maybe you're a leader within an academic realm, or maybe it's more in the private sector, but it's really designed to create those leaders. It is a 3-year program. So it's start to finish in 3 years with a lot of variety as far as a final project or dissertation, depending on what your kind of research interests are. That doctoral program gives you that freedom. It does go around throughout the year, so it's not something like just fall and spring, for example. We offer summer classes and things like that keep a student actively engaged for this entire 3 years. But once again, stay on the established sequence, which pretty much every student does, because they have a work hand in hand with Dr. Mark Federico, who's our program director, and make sure those students are led the whole way through that doctorate in just 3 years, which is awesome.
And that's also an online program?
It is 100% online, correct.
I'm always curious when I talk to people and find out their stories. It's like, I thought I would be someplace out west as an athletic trainer at a small college, and I'm not. And I don't regret any of the paths that I took. Looking back to when you were growing up in Hollidaysburg, decided to go to Penn State. If you could take what you know now, go back to then, would you have changed anything in your educational path, or did that allow you to get to where you are now?
That's a great question. I would say no. No, it's been a great journey. It's one that, I'll be honest, I did a lot of self-reflection throughout my journey and my path, and I let it evolve. When I went through Penn State, to be honest with you, I was actually going to go to law school. My goal was to be an agent for golfers. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to represent Tiger Woods. I knew I couldn't play like him, but if I could represent him, I'd get a little piece of that pie. All joking aside, I was really defined at the undergrad level. And then all of a sudden, when this job opened up and I was fortunately selected for the position, I kind of put a lot of that aside. I said, you know what, let's just let this journey kind of unveil itself as I go through and I learn, because it was so new to me. Yes, I was a student in the classroom, but I had no idea what it was like being a faculty member, working with administrations and working in committee type of environments and motivating people in ways and dealing with budgets and all that type of stuff. That was not something that really I spent a ton of time with. So it really gave me that opportunity to just kind of sit back sometimes and just look at everything and let the past start to come clear to you. And once again, your passions, the things that mean the most to you will start to come clear. Because when I was at that age, I'm going back to 23, 24, I always thought I need to be very goal-oriented. That's what everyone told me. What's your goal? What are you doing every day to accomplish that? I'll be honest, I put a lot of pressure on myself. And when I sit back and I look at the last now 20 plus years since I graduated Penn State, I sit back and say, you know what? I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I think probably sitting back and just observing some of the people around me, finding mentors that meant a lot, and allowing them to help create opportunities, those are all things that helped make my career path come clear.
We've been talking with Justin Barroner. He is the chairperson of the Department of Exercise and Sports Science. Justin, thanks for taking time to talk to movement as a lifestyle.
Thank you for having me today.